My friends, welcome to this tutorial about creating games with Solarus. In this video we are still talking about inventory items, and this time we will make a slightly more interesting inventory item, which is the bow. And actually we not only will make the bow in this tutorial, but we will also make the arrow refills and even the quiver, whose effect will be to change the maximum amount of arrows. So yeah, we will need 3 items because actually all of them are can be obtained in chests typically. So yeah, let's go. For now I prepared 3 PNG files, one for the bow, one for the arrow refill, and one for the quiver, which will have 3 variants. And yeah, as always, when you create items, you need an animation for each item in the entities/items sprite. So I call this one bow. And by the way, I like having a separate PNG for each item so that I better keep track of the author and of the changes of each item. So okay, this is bow, then the arrow refill, there it is, and finally, oops, nope, the quiver. So this one will have 3 directions. We could also have multiple variants of the arrow refill to give different amounts, for instance, but for this tutorial we will just make one. But we will have 3 quivers. So 3 directions. Yeah, so let's say this one will have a maximum amount of 30 arrows, this one 50, and this one 99, for instance. Okay, and we will need some dialogues. As always, when you create a treasure, you need the item and the dialogue. When you create an item, sorry. So underscore treasure dot the name of the item dot the variant. So there is only one bow. You found the bow. You can now shoot arrows to enemies. Now the arrow refill. So there is only one variant, we said, of the arrow refill, and let's say it will give 5 arrows. Yeah, with a capital letter, because why not? And the quiver, this one will have 3 variants. So the first one, we will probably not obtain it automatically. We will obtain the bow, and the bow will come automatically with the first quiver. But for consistency, I still want to make the dialogue. It can carry up to 30 arrows. And then I will duplicate this one for variant 2 and variant 3. So the second one will be called the silver quiver. It can have up to 50 arrows, and the third one will be the gold quiver, golden quiver, 99 arrows. Okay, so I have my item, I have my dialogues, and now we can create the scripts for all these 3 items. So new item, first the bow. Then error refill. You can give more details in the description if you want. And finally, the Quiver. And since there are 3 variants of the Quiver, I like to put details about each variant. Yeah, like I did for gems here, or for the tunic. Okay, like this for consistency. Okay, cool. So the Quiver will be a bit similar to the money bag actually. When the variant of the Quiver changes, it will change the maximum amount of our bow counter. But okay, let's start with the bow. Okay, I won't need that, but the bow will be the one in the inventory. So first it is saved, just like our life potion of the previous tutorial. Set save game variable. We save the position state of the bow, which will be 0 or 1. And by the way, instead of writing position bow, we can write this in a more general way. Item get name. So it will also produce the string position bow, but yeah, I'm just calling item get name instead of hard coding bow. So actually this line would work for any item now, and if I ever decide to rename the bow, it will still work. So that's just a small detail. Now the bow also has a counter, so we want to save an amount in a variable called amount underscore bow. So again, like for life potions, we save separately the fact that we can have a bow or no bow, 0 or 1, and then how many arrows we have. So what is the amount associated with our bow? And yeah, it makes it possible to distinguish between no bow at all and a bow with 0 arrows remaining. Okay, we want to make our item assignable to an item command, and when we obtain it, when you obtain the bow, we want to assign it to, let's say, the second item slot, because if you followed the previous tutorial, the first item slot was for the life potion. So later we will make an inventory menu, and it will avoid having to hard code the item slots. But set item assigned, sorry, item 2, I mean slot 2, and this item, the bow. Okay. Initially, when we obtain the bow the first time, we want to automatically give the first variant of the Quiver, but silently. So we are not doing hero start treasure. We don't want to brandish the Quiver additionally to brandishing the bow, of course. So what we can do is that we can do get item Quiver set variant number 1, and we will make some code in the Quiver that will change the maximum amount of the bow whenever the variant of the Quiver changes. Okay? And At this point we also want, when you obtain the bow, to initialize it with the maximum amount and not with 0 arrows. So we want to do set amount, get max amount. Okay, and get max amount is defined actually by the quiver, so that's why we call this just before. So let's actually do that right now. The quiver, when the variant of the quiver changes, so variant can be 1, 2, or 3. It could also be 0 if there was some code that removes the possession of the quiver, but that will not happen. So what we can do is a small array that stores the different amounts, and we get the bow, and we want to change the maximum amount of the counter associated to the bow. Set max amount, amounts variant. So this is 1, 2, or 3. So if this is 1, it will be 30. If it's 2, it will be 50, and if it's 3, it will be 99. So arrays start at 1 in Lua. So that's pretty handy for this code. And yeah, we also want our quiver to be saved. We want to remember which quiver we have. Set position, set save game variable. Well, actually, let's be lazy and just save that. Just paste that. Cool. So I have my bow, I have my quiver. For now the bow does nothing, but we will get to there in a minute. I haven't done the arrows yet, but I think I can already test something here. This map. Okay. Let's put a small treasure chest. With the bow. Probably it should be saved. And see what happens. Ooh. I have some old code from a previous tutorial that should not be there. Sorry about that. Okay. You found the bow, you can now shoot arrows to enemies. So my text is overflowing here. Okay, languages. Just quickly fix that. And yeah, so I have my bow equipped because I set here set item assigned to slot number 2. So the V key by default. But nothing happens when I press V because I haven't yet defined any behavior instead of just stopping the item. But yeah, I also have the counter as expected with amount 30. So our quiver code did work here. Cool. I can also check that if I obtain another variant of the quiver, let's put a second chest here. Quiver, yeah, let's say variant number 2. Yeah, it should increase the maximum amount. If on a silver quiver it can carry more arrows. So I still have 30 arrows because I only changed the maximum. I didn't change the current number. So you could actually set the maximum amount, the amount to the maximum directly here, if you want. So set amount. Yeah, I need a variable instead of repeating this 3 times. Bow set max amount. You can do that, so as soon as you obtain a quiver, it will also be filled to the maximum. Nice. Okay, now what's remaining to do is the arrow, of course, but also the bow itself. So let's get rid of that quickly. Yeah, what happens when you use the arrow, the bow, sorry. We can do, first we need to check if we have enough arrows. So if item get amount equals 0, or you can do, if you prefer, if not item has amount, then let's play a sound. Wrong, and unfreeze the hero. I mean, mark the item as finished and return. So we got rid of the error cases, and now the main case. First we remove an arrow, remove amount 1, and then let's get the hero. So the recommended way to implement a bow that shoots arrows would be to create some scripts that will implement the arrow, the movement of the arrow, how does it hurt enemies, what is the effect of arrows on various puzzles, things like that. But for this tutorial we will use the old built-in start bow function. So yeah, this function still exists for historical reasons. It was done back when the Lua API was not as powerful as it is now, and most items were just built in the engine, and we would call that to just trigger them. So actually the engine will take care of everything by just calling start bow. We don't call item set finished because this will trigger an animation on the hero, and the engine will actually take care of unblocking the hero then. So I can shoot some arrows. The only thing you need is you need an arrow sprite, so the flying arrow, with some specific animations, but you can find them in our projects, or the default sprite is fine. And you need in your hero some bow animation using the bow. But yeah, in a future tutorial we will make arrows the modern way, let's say. We will implement them, we will implement their movement and everything, because that's how you would script some, like any weapons nowadays. You don't want to stick to whatever was built in early versions of Solarus. Okay, cool. So we have our arrows. So for now we will be happy with that for this tutorial. Now arrows. So arrow refill. We don't. So it's definitely not an item that we can use directly. It's just an item that we can obtain. And when we obtain it, we want to increase the bow counter. Add amount 5. Let's say 5 arrows. Yeah, so okay. In our map, why not put some vase with arrow refill? Let's say 2 of them, like this. So here I have the arrow inside the pot, the vase. You found 5 arrows. So first, when we pick them on the ground, maybe we don't want the dialogue and the brandishing animation. So to do that, in our item properties, so item on started, we can say don't brandish this item when it is picked. Brandish when picked, false. And I guess that's it. And second thing, maybe we don't want arrows to appear until we have the bow. So how do we do that? We can call set assignable, set obtainable false, and when obtainable is false, yeah, you can never obtain them, even if they are in the treasure or inside a vase. They will just be immediately deleted. They will not be created by the engine. So we want it to be false initially, but to be true when we do have the bow. So one way to do that is to, at this point in unstarted of arrows, we want to check the save game variable of the bow, or we can do it in the bow itself here. So we can do yeah, get item arrow, set obtainable. Well, we want to make it obtainable if we have the bow. So item has variant. If I have any variant of the bow, there is only one variant, so it can be 0 or 1. 0, you don't have it, this will return false, or 1, you have the bow. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, I don't have the bow yet. No arrows. Oh, I need to change that when I obtain the bow as well. Because here this code is only called when the game starts. Okay. So no arrows. I get the bow, and then what happens? Yay, it works. Okay, cool. So one detail, the reason why I called set obtainable on the arrow from here, from the bow, and not from the arrow script itself, is because it depends on the position of the bow. So at this point, we are guaranteed that the bow is initialized. It is associated to its save game variable and stuff. Because if I want to get the position state of the bow from unstarted of the arrow script, well, I'm not exactly sure which one of these arrow or bow scripts will be initialized first. Probably the arrow will be initialized first, because I think it should be done in alphabetical order, but I don't want to rely on the initialization order. So yeah, sometimes we can have some quite subtle bugs because of that. But I don't want to confuse you too much. What's important is that we want to set whether arrows are obtainable depending on the position state of the bow. So it makes sense to initialize it after initializing the position state of the bow. Okay, cool. We could also do the same for Quiver, maybe make sure that Quiver is not obtainable before you have the bow, but usually if your game is normally designed, the Quiver will be in a later dungeon, maybe a long time after you are forced to have the bow anyway, so we don't really care in that example. Okay, what we can do next in future tutorials is maybe multiple variants of arrows to give different amounts. We do that actually in our games. You can check arrow scripts. And more interestingly, like I said before, we probably don't want in new projects to use the legacy built-in item functions. So instead of hero start bow that does everything, we will learn how to do this in pure Lua, and that will be a good opportunity to learn a lot of things like custom entities. Okay, but I think you have enough for this tutorial. What's important is that we created 3 items. So the bow with its counter, this is the one that is equipped and that appears in your inventory item, in your future inventory menu, and in your HUD. Arrow, this is just the refill. So it has no position state. There is no such thing as do I possess an arrow refill. It doesn't make sense. You possess a bow and a quiver, and the bow has an amount. So the arrow refill its only effect is to change the amount associated to the bow. So that's a little bit subtle, but when you think about it, it's the correct way to do things. And the quiver, its effect is to change the maximum amount of the bow. Okay, so I hope you understand the distinction between bow, arrow, quiver. If something is unclear, please just ask on our Discord. This should also help you to make any kind of similar item that has an amount and has a maximum amount that can change and has a refill. So bombs, typically, they work the exact same way with 3 items. So the equipable bombs, the one with a counter, the one in your inventory, the one that is saved, the bomb refill, and the bomb bag. You can check also here in our project how we do it, but it works pretty much the same way as the bow with 3 items. Okay, I hope all of this was not too confusing. It's more complicated than life potions, but that's also a more realistic item that you could use in your projects. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.